Hello everyone and welcome to Raquel Teaches. In today's lesson, I'm going to teach you how you can write on GitHub into your repository. So let's go ahead and get started. Now here what we have is a GitHub repository. You should be familiar with what this is by now. And what I mean by writing is using your GitHub repository to create files that contain text. So what I'm going to show you is how to create such a file from scratch right here in GitHub, and different ways that you can format it if you want to add styling to your document. So the way that you can write on GitHub is that you can go to your repository as I've done here, and then you can add a file. And when you add the file, that's when you'll decide the format of the file that you're going to create. So the way that you add a file is that you use this button over here on the right that says Add File. When you click on Add File, it gives you an option to either create a new file or upload files. You're going to click on Create New File. And when you do so, you are going to get a screen that looks like this with an empty field where you can enter the name of the file. So when it comes to GitHub, the two types of files that you can create with text are either text files or Markdown files, right? And I'm going to show you how to create both in this demonstration. A text file will always have the text, the file name, of .txt, right? So for example, I can call this sample.txt, all right? And this will be a text file, because that's the file format that I gave it. And I can also go ahead and start entering whatever text I want the text file to have. So text files are simple, plain text. You are probably familiar with them because you probably have a standard program that does that on your computer. If you have a Windows computer, it would be created with something called Notepad, and I believe Macs have something similar. If you're using Linux, it would be using a program such as VM. But you can enter plain text that doesn't have any formatting into a text file. So for example, I can put something like my list of desserts, okay? And I can enter spaces for the lines. I can start a new line, and I can just enter whatever I want. If I want to create bullet points, I can put like asterisks and put, first item here, etc. I can number things as well. Okay, so a plain text file is exactly what it sounds like. It's plain text. You type whatever you want. You add spaces however you want, and it's just a plain text file. And so once you first create this text file with the file name here, and if you decide to start it off with some text in the area there, you can then save that file. Okay, if you want to get a preview of what this text file will look like, you can click on preview and you can see what it looks like. And it pretty much looks like the same as what you typed in the edit menu. So once you've given this document a name with its appropriate extension, and once you've started to enter some text, you can now click on the button all the way to the right to commit changes. This is the method for saving any changes that you make to a file in GitHub. And you must do this anytime you make an update to your text file. And generally speaking, for any files that you work with in GitHub when you're changing them in GitHub. So I'm going to go ahead and click on commit changes. And this window will pop up that says commit changes. Now, typically, most people will create their own commit message, meaning this is a brief description of the change you made to the document. And sometimes what most people do when you're initially creating a document is that it will have a commit message like what's displayed here. It'll say something like add favorite desserts list to sample.txt, or some people might do something like this. Create sample txt document. Okay, and once you add a description there, it does not need to be long by any means, just a very simple 2 or 3 word description. Once you enter that, you want to click on commit changes. Okay, and now you'll see that this text file has been created in the repository. And if I click on that text file name that I just created, we can see that is a text file to be read. Okay, so now I'm going back up to the repository, and I'm going to show you how to create one more type of file in GitHub. Okay, and this one is called a Markdown file. Now, Markdown is a type of markup language. You should be familiar with it once you see it because it may remind you somewhat of HTML, which is what you've been learning so far. Again, this Markdown document I'm going to show you is optional. It allows you to add styling to your text document in the same way that you would use CSS to style an HTML. But again, this is optional. Whether you choose to use a text document or a Markdown document is completely up to you. I just want to give you the option to use both. So again, if we want to add a new file, we're going to go back over here to the button that says Add File. We're going to select the option that says Create New File. And now in the file name up here, we're going to give it a name. Okay, I'm going to call this styled text. But this time the extension for the file that I'm going to give it is .md. Okay, and .md stands for Markdown. Okay, and now what Markdown does is that it allows you to enter text, but you can add special, what we call formatting marks to give it a certain look. And in this lesson, I'm also going to be including a link to a very simple Markdown manual that has many different types of styling marks that you can use. I won't go over all of them here, but just some of the basic ones that seem to be the most popular. So for example, if you want to give something that is a heading, pretty much the same way that we would use an H1 element in HTML, you can use the number sign. You can use one number sign like this to give it a first level heading. Okay, and right now as I'm typing it, you're not going to see the formatting yet, but once we hit preview, you'll be able to get a preview of what it looks like. I can go to the next line and I can type 2 number signs, and this will be what's called a second level heading, etc. You get the idea. If I go to the next line and do 3 number signs, this would be a third level heading. Okay. That's what headings look like. If you want to add spaces between lines of text, you can just insert a blank line the way I did there. Now, you can also do other things. For example, if you want to make some text bold, you can put 2 asterisks and it will show as bold text. Okay, and then you end it with 2 asterisks. If you want to do something as italic, okay, you can do the underline, okay, like this. So you can do an underline, then this, and you'll see that this is italicized. Okay. I'm sorry, you want to put the underline right next to the text. Okay. And if you just want to type regular old text, you can just skip a line. And actually, I'm going to put a blank line between these, but you can just skip a line and just add text. Okay. And so what I'm going to, I've entered some of these formatting marks here. Okay. And I'm going to click on preview, and you'll see here when we click on preview that we get first level heading, second level heading, third level heading, bolded text, italicized text, regular old text. Okay. So this is what you can do with a Markdown file. You can use these formatting marks or formatting markup to give style to the text when you're creating this document in GitHub. Okay. And once again, you'll use the same steps to save the changes to the document. So once you've given it a file name and you've entered any text, you can click on commit changes. Either let Copilot generate an automatic commit message for you or enter your own and click on commit changes. Okay, and now this document is saved to the repository as well. If you want to go back into any of these documents and edit it, you can. Okay, so just understand that you don't have to enter everything you want to at the same time that you're creating the file. You can just add the file name and add like the first line of text and then save that change just so you can get the file saved in the repository, then go back into the file and make any other editing changes you like. So if you'd like to change any one of these files, whether you're making a change or just adding more to it or deleting something out of it, you just want to click on the file and you'll be able to edit it by clicking on this pencil icon all the way to the right. So when you click on it, well, before you click on it, you'll hover over it. You see it says edit this file. You click on it and now you're back in the editing window and you can add whatever you like. If you realize that you don't need to make any changes, you can just click on the cancel changes button. Okay, and go back to your repository, and you'll see that the effect is the option is the same in the Markdown file. When you click on the pencil icon, it gives you the option to edit the file, and you can continue to do so. You can always preview your changes so you can be sure of what it looks like before you make any commits. Okay, so that is how you can write in a GitHub repository. You just add the file, decide whether or not you want it to be a text or Markdown file, add the name of the file, add the content of the file, and commit the changes. And you can always go back and make changes, add or delete from it. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.